Welcome back to 30 Life Crisis for episode 6, and today we're sitting with a very inspirational man, someone who's been through the wars, Scott Kuru from Freedom Property Investors. Just a bit of a background on the show. 30 Life Crisis is that period in life where your efforts aren't being as rewarded as generously as they were, and you get to a bit of a crossroad. At this point, it's a terribly optimistic show. You're actually at the peak of your powers, and opportunity awaits on the other side of your 30 life crisis. So, Scott Kuru.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thank you. So, your 30 life crisis, I've got some notes here. Divorced.
Yes.
Hated your job. 4 kids.
Yep.
Full-time dad.
Yes.
And almost dead flat broke.
Yeah, that's right. I'd just gone through life, as you said, you're coming through your teenage years, you're growing, you're getting physically stronger, you're achieving, and then you start off, you get your first job, you're getting a lot of runs on the board, and then you sort of get to a point in life where maybe what you thought when you were younger, things don't turn out how they were meant to turn out, how you planned. And I found myself, all those things you said, broke, kids, single, living alone, suffering from a lot of anxiety, a lot of loneliness, in a job that I absolutely hated, and I had a great career up until that point. But found myself in a job where I just wasn't fitting in with the culture. Things weren't really going my way, and basically that was the crisis point for me.
We spoke about briefly anxiety and depression, that you were so far down.
Yeah. So, I'd always been like a bright, positive, happy. I was always known amongst my family, my circle of friends, as someone that was always the most motivated. And people probably would have voted me as to be, maybe the most successful, because I was so committed to success and growing. And then I just found myself the complete opposite of that.
Did you feel a failure?
You know what? I felt that I had failed. And when I had hit this point, it was sort of feeling that level of failure and not having a way to get out, or not feeling like I had a way to get out. That's probably what sent me on that further downward spiral of just basically, depression.
Well, let's investigate that a little bit more. How far down that spiral did we get? Did we get to the point of, very severe suicidal thoughts?
Suicide is something that I've been touched by, just different friends that I've had in my life, and through family. I'm sure there's a lot of people who've been touched by it. So it's hard for me to say how far down that I went, but I did get to the point where my self-talk was, I would be happier if I was dead. There was so much pain. When I look back into the past, there was pain. There was pain for me in where I currently was, and when I looked into the future, I could only see more pain. I felt hopeless, and I thought, well, there's just not a lot of pleasure or success or goodness in my life. There's only pain. I just feel at this point I'd rather be dead. But I still had reasons to live.
Yep.
And that was my mom. That was my children. So I still had some very strong reasons to live, and I think ultimately that's what stopped me from going further down. That I still felt like my kids, my mom would be better off if I was on the planet rather than off the planet.
And look, this is part of my job. I'm out here raising awareness. I'm a chaplain of the football club as well, and suicides is one of those absolutely ugly statistics. We have 8 suicides a day in Australia. It is unbelievable. 6 males, 2 females. And what I find with suicide and suicide awareness is actually raising the awareness and reminding people that if you're having suicidal thoughts where you think that you are better off dead, okay, we've got a mental health issue, we need to address that. But if you have suicidal thoughts where you're starting to think the world would be better off if I'm dead, you've got a real problem at that point, and you need to be running into your health practitioner very quickly indeed and get onto some drugs. So in a way, I'm a little bit encouraged that you could still see people around you needed you. And that is a big stopper of suicide, if we can see that people still needed you. So just keep raising that awareness.
Yep.
Specifically, we were talking about loneliness. Give us some feedback on that. What was lonely? Why were you lonely? You had 4 kids. Surely you're not lonely. They would have been in your face all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think when I was young, I was surrounded by cousins and aunties and uncles and family. Growing up in New Zealand, we moved to Australia. I had all my school friends. I had different sports teams that I was belonging to. Then I sort of moved into my marriage, which was really, really great. At first, I had my family, and I had, I guess, a lot of family friends, and a lot of things were centered around the family unit. So a lot of my individual friends and connections weren't there. It was more the connections that we had as a family unit. Now, going through divorce, a lot of that framework and that community and the tribes that I belonged to just sort of fell away. Then I found myself like a single dad with care of my 4 kids. And between work and taking care of the family, managing the money, and just trying to manage the household, I just found that I didn't have a lot of time to get out and engage the same way. I was tired. And a lot of, I guess, a lot of those connections that I had fell away. So I had a real feeling of not feeling supported and feeling lonely, like not having a partner, not having someone that I could rely on. Having some good friends, but having trouble finding time to connect with them and just share what was going on. And then having a lot of shame, because feeling like is this really what my life's come from? And then having someone to sort of open up to about that.
It's a big one, isn't it? The fear, I've failed. I've failed my children, I've failed my life, I've failed my family. I know when I went through my crisis, that's how I felt. I felt like a failure.
Yeah, and it's like I had that brewing feeling inside me of feeling more and more like a failure. A failure maybe in my social life, a failure as a father. My career right now, not really getting along with where I was working, and feeling stuck, feeling like I'd hit a ceiling that I really couldn't get through. And I thought, well, I guess I felt the pressure to still maintain that facade that everything's okay, I'm solid for my kids, I'm happy, everything's going great, when I guess the truth of it is that really that I wasn't.
And with hopelessness, you felt hopeless in all this?
Yeah.
Did you feel there was a way out, or were you just completely, this is it, I'm done?
Yeah, hope was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, because I think that when you're in this negative thought pattern, when you start thinking these negative thoughts, you start allowing them to dominate, and you're feeling isolated, you're feeling lonely, and then basically just the grind. And I'm sure a lot of people can understand what I'm talking about. We work harder than probably ever before. Life is so fast-paced and busy, the bills and all these things going on. I just felt like I was bombarded and just worn down by all my responsibilities. And I just felt like I don't have the energy, I don't have the time, I don't have the opportunity, I don't have the money, I don't have the... So I had all of these limiting beliefs, I guess, that shut off the possibility for opportunity, and that just shut off the possibility for hope. And when I lost hope, that's when I really found myself just really day by day going down, and it started to accelerate.
And there's a point, males, we do have a bit of aggro in us that's inherent, where I know myself that I'll get to a point where I'll snap mentally. Sometimes I'll snap to the fatigue and become a blibbering mess. And at another point I might actually snap and get quite angry and aggressive about it. Or how were you? Where was your breaking point?
You know what? Like I grew up in a very violent household, and I had this thing in my head. I didn't want that for myself or for my family. So like I had a lot of negative charge on expressing anger. And I guess acting out violently, but like during that time, and this is so uncharacteristic for me, but during that time, like at one point, I punched the wall. Did you hit the stud, or did you go through the plaster? Well, it was like a brick wall. It was a brick wall. It's gonna hurt. And something was happening at work, and because what I found is that my capacity to deal with stress had gone from this to about that. And what I found is that I was just being triggered by the smallest things. I was at work one day and some stuff was going down, and like I'd never ever been in this situation. I actually felt like I wanted to cry at work. And it's hard for me to admit right here. I actually felt like bursting into tears at work. So I quickly put that aside. I went out. That I guess hurt or sadness turned to anger. I punched the wall. And hurt my hand. Feel like an idiot now thinking back at it. But at that point, I'd kind of lost my emotional mastery. So my ability to manage my emotions had lost. And then I found that I was finishing work. I was coming home and cooking and doing things for the kids, and I was becoming a lot more snappy. And there's I've got 4 kids, 1 daughter, 3 sons. My middle son especially. I was having a lot of arguments with him at the time too. So it just wasn't a great place to be.
Not a great place to be at all.
Yeah.
And very busy at the same time.
Yeah, and I guess like these are these are the warning signs, and I remember there was a couple of light bulb moments, but one light bulb moment, and maybe people could think about this. I just stopped and I thought to myself, when was the last time I was happy? And I couldn't find anything in the last week. I couldn't find anything in the last month. I couldn't find anything in the last year. I had to go back 5-6 years to find a moment where I felt happy, and I guess that was when I started thinking, you know, I've got to do something. I've got to turn around, like punching the wall. I'm like, holy shit!
Why did I just do that?
What have I just done? When was the last time I had this? I'm getting into arguments with my son, my little boy that I love, like with all of my heart. So I guess these are the things. And also, I guess those questioning, like, I'd be really happy if I was just dead right now.
Yep.
And I just thought, you know, holy shit! Like I've got to make a turn here, or I'm just going to continue to go down.
Well, I actually think, you know, to get to the point of where you've got to and being able to actually recognise it is a critical point. I know the second part of the show we're actually going to start talking about hope and how you progress from there. But look, there's three really big mental health issues you've picked up on here. You've picked up on loneliness. Now, loneliness comes generally. I think loneliness is one of the most understated effects of mental health that we have in this society. The more independent we come, and it might be independent because it's been forced upon us by being lack of support and family in New Zealand, or being independent by being too proud to not reach out and let ourselves be interdependent on each other, will feed loneliness, and that really does become the start of the downward spiral. To feel absolutely hopeless, to feel under threat, financial, not knowing what to do, is a very common feeling with divorce, but also bankruptcies and business failures and just about anything else you can think of. Mental, knowing when you're going to snap, break. It's at that point when you punch the wall. That is a very, very good trigger to remind yourself that actually I do have a mental health problem here. But that last one, the big one, suicidal thoughts, you have to be very aware about that, and it is not something you keep to yourself. It is someone that you share with a professional. So we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the hope and how Scott Kuru built hope and built into the success he is now.
Hi, I'm Laura D'Aquino, host of Lunchtime Express. You're watching Ticker.
Welcome back to 30 Life Crisis and our very special guest, Scott Kuru. He's taken us on a bit of a journey, on a real downward journey that started with a divorce and hating his job and being broke, to feelings of loneliness, hopelessness, and mental state that was very vulnerable and under threat. The show goes through the process of diagnosing, and Scott's been very open with helping us in that process. But now we want to talk about the rescue package. You know, what started to turn you around? We've had a chat previously, and we've spoken about, and it's very similar in my circumstances, men in particular are very money focused and feeling completely broke and unable to provide for a family. It will really feed our depressions and feelings of worthlessness. This was a focus for you?
Yeah, it was a big focus for me. I mean, I had the realization that we spoke about, and then basically I thought, like, you know, I got to turn this thing around, and I just thought, how should I do it? And I went to two things. I went to the internet, and I went to, you know, the universe. Some might say God, or some might say your ancestors, or some might just say, you know, putting it out there, you know, into the universe. And like, I just jumped on Google and I just started doing some research on how I was feeling. So I started typing in a few different things. And then like I'm not an overly religious person or anything, but I did grow up going to church a little bit. And like, I basically just started sending out and saying to the universe, like help me, show me a way. And whether that was just mentally, my mind then just started to turn around and start focusing on positive opportunities, whether it was a spiritual thing, like I don't think it really matters. But what was important is that my mind actually now had said, all right, I want to find a way out. And I started focusing on ways out. So I started actually just talking to people a little bit more about things. I started Googling different things, and I came across a couple of good mentors. So one of them I'll talk about today was like Tony Robbins. So I found this great video on YouTube of Tony Robbins where he spoke for about 5-10 minutes about someone in a very similar situation to me, and there were a few little steps that this person had taken to turn their life around. And then I started watching more and more of Tony Robbins stuff, and then YouTube, you know, popped up a few little suggestions of other videos, and I watched that, and I got some really good things from those, like a few little processes and things that I could try and find my way out. And I started coming across stories of hope. And then I thought, all right, well, what could I do? And because now I was sort of at the beginning of coming out of that downward spiral, I was thinking, what can I do? What do I need to do right now? And the two things that just came up from inside me was, Scott, get into shape, like get your fitness back, start eating well, go out and buy a whole bunch of vitamins and stuff. Like for some reason that just came to my mind to do that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. And then the other thing was, you know, Scott, find a way to get your money right. Find a way, if you can get your money right, you're going to have more time with your kids. You're going to have a good sense of pride about that. You can get out of this work situation. And I'd become very tired, Stephen. And then maybe if you had some money there, I could take a rest because I felt really, really worn out. And this kind of gave me like that extra little bit of energy that I didn't think that I had. Suddenly, I had this little bit of energy that wasn't there before. And I started out on a journey, obviously looking more at, you know, personal development, you know, what is going on with me, mental health, figuring out what's going on. And then the other part was money. So I went out there and I searched around. I landed on property. And then I started going to anything free that you could do. Free books, free seminars, free this. And what that gave me was, it just gave me forward momentum. So whatever it is for other people, like there's so many stories out there how people have clawed their way out. It's always a different way. But I think the common thing was I had a focal point that gave me forward momentum. It gave me a bit of a journey to go on. And I think what was important is I felt for the first time in a number of years, I was back on a mission.
So you scraped together some money and saved some money and you went out and bought a property.
Yeah,
so and then you followed the time-honoured route, if you like, of getting some equity in that property and borrowing again, and borrowing again, and borrowing again, and building up a property portfolio.
Interesting you say that about the borrowing. So I just followed a very boring, a very basic, a very, you know, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. You can find a lot of resources that will teach you how to do that. But the big thing is that I was very scared of debt. I thought that debt would trap me more. Debt was a burden. Debt would be more of a burden, more responsibility. And the big mindset change for me was I'd gotten so low, I'd done the math that I couldn't get my way out in my job. I thought, I've got to do something different. I hadn't thought about investing in property and taking on debt before, but I was so low right now. I was prepared to do things different. I was prepared to take what I thought were risks that I was not prepared to take 5 or 10 years earlier. And it was that courage and that risk that ultimately got me to where I am today.
And I think we've touched on probably one of the most important points of this show. For men in particular, whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. A lot of our identity is tied up in our financial success. Doesn't matter if we're competitive by nature, we feel have to be providers, whatever it might be. A lot of our identity is tied up in being financial and being able to help others with our finances. When you don't have that really does feed your mental health in a very negative way. And I actually find that, and it was true in my life as well, I needed everything pulled away from being a comfortable middle class person to having all your wealth stripped aside. And for me it was business. Really look at the asset you had left, an underperforming business, and go, you know what, I've got nothing left to worry about. I've got nothing to lose. I am just going to roll the dice and roll the dice and roll the dice again. And if that hadn't happened to me in my 30s, I don't reckon I would have. I don't think I would have gone and done a thing except stayed comfortable for the rest of my life. But I had that wool pulled out from underneath you from a financial point of view, rightfully or wrongfully, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Fired me to the nth degree. I am going to go. I had a family member that lent me some money, and that was enough to get into, like you, get into a property and then start to grow some equity and leverage off that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And look, I did have someone that came along and helped me. So like my current business partner today, her name's Liana Pan. She was a friend of mine that I'd run into at these property seminars. And she gave me a lot of help and a lot of care and a lot of love and a lot of nurture at that time when I needed it. So I think sometimes there are people there, an uncle, a friend, a stranger that could become a friend. These people are there if you'll allow yourself to maybe notice them. So if you're feeling sort of a little bit lonely or a little bit isolated, like maybe you could ask yourself, like, is this reality? Because if you really think about it, there are probably people around you that do want to help. If you would allow yourself to notice it.
And as you found, you started to come out of this pit, if you like, of misery, and you start to actually make forward progress again. And that forward progress, does that make you energized and continue?
It makes you, I mean, it's like okay, I go to a property seminar, I learn some new knowledge, I got a little bit of excitement from that, and then I come back and then I learn some new knowledge, I got a little bit more excited about that. Then I add a little bit more savings, because now I'm feeling a little bit more motivated, put a little bit more extra money away. Now I feel excited about that. Now my self-respect level comes up. Now I actually feel like I'm moving. So it's like your baby step today, you might be in such a hole right now. Your baby step might be getting out of bed, putting your shoes on and going for a walk. You get back home after half an hour of that, you're going to feel that much better. But 5 years from now, if you can keep building on these little baby steps, it's incredible. Like, I would never have imagined I'd have 16 properties today. If you're watching this right now, and if you're in a world of hell, if you're in a pit, if you're suffering, if you're hurting, I promise you that if you take these forward steps, you'll look back at that hole and that pit. They'll be the times that you're the most proud of in your life. So now I sort of say to the universe, God, I sort of say, I am so grateful for those low times, because I learned things and it gave me enough pain and to drive me forward to achieve what I've achieved. I wouldn't have what I have today without that pain.
You're summing up my statements of last week to perfection. If you do something, something always compounds into something. If you do nothing, nothing will compound into nothing. Every single baby step that you've taken has compounded into the position you're at now. But if you'd sit there in your little ball and said, I'm not going to do anything at all, I'm not going to download a free seminar. It's not costing you anything. Download it. YouTube is full of free advice. The YouTube channels everywhere covering everything that you don't actually have to pay for. You can upskill yourself. You can get reading books and really start to grow. And that knowledge that you grow, you keep building on. And before you know it, you're starting to go, well, I've done it. I'm going to start helping others. And I think that takes your business to your investments to a whole new level, where you sit there going, okay, I was in the pit. I've now made myself financially successful, but your business has gone the other way to the empathy side, and you're taking people who have been through similar experiences that you've been through and helping them out.
Yeah, we just, we've set this business up. I mean, I started investing I was investing with Liana. We were helping friends and family out. Before we knew it, we knew that we had a way or a method that anyone could follow. It's actually very boring, actually, but we had a set of rules that we developed that when we followed them, we had success with investing. Now, I mean, we're a business today, but underlying that business, yes, we want to grow. Yes, we want to create an impact, and yes, we want to earn money from what we do. But underlying all of that, we want to help people.
Yeah.
And as cheesy or as corny or whatever that sounds, I believe that if you're feeling stuck right now, if you ask yourself, what could I do that would help others? You'll find opportunities in business, in your career, in whatever that you're doing, to be able to get you out of where you are right now. And I know that our business success, because we've done some incredible things in our business in the last 3-4 years, it's come because we've always thought, how do we help people first? And today with social media and all these things, you've got to create great outcomes for people to be successful.
That's right. You work to the saying, saying I use all the time, if you want to elevate yourself, you elevate others. And if you start to genuinely want to help other people as you are, as I are in our business, that's when you start to start to feel good about yourself. Look, thank you for coming on. I'm just going to wrap this up. And
Sure.
I think Scott has given us an amazing saying. I'm trying to put it into better words now, but his appetite for risk was born, and mine too, out of a position of having nothing to lose. So if you get to a position in life where you're feeling comfortable and all of a sudden you won't take risks, you won't burst out of your shell, you're going to stay comfortable for the rest of your life. If you get to a position through divorce or bankruptcies or whatever it might be where you've got nothing left to worry about, your appetite for risk, appetite for risk is fed by nothing to lose. At that point, you're dangerous. Thanks for watching 30 Life Crisis.